Bienvenido a Walmart Connect, un podcast donde líderes y expertos comparten las últimas tendencias del retail, el marketing y la publicidad. Únete a la conversación y conectemos.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Le estamos grabando desde nuestro evento de fin de año de Walmart Digital, Walmart Accelerate. Hoy día nos acompaña un invitado muy especial, por lo que vamos a tener que cambiar el idioma a inglés. Thank you, Peter, to join us today and be our guest instead of being the host that normally you use to be in your podcast. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself before we start?
Well, yes, the tables are turned on me today, yes. So I'm the target of the podcast. So sit back and get ready for hopefully a lot of fun. So my name is Peter V.S. Bond, and I am known as the co-host and co-founder of the CPG Guys podcast. It is a podcast that we created a little over 4 years ago, and it is focused on exploring how brands and retailers engage consumers in a digitally driven world. We've published 450 episodes, over 1.5 million downloads. Yeah. We are top 50 every other week. It changes, but we're top 50 in Apple marketing podcasts. So we have a really great audience. We have about just short of 35,000 followers on LinkedIn. We're very honored that over 1,000 of them are at Walmart alone. So we built the podcast as an educational tool, and it's become quite the community. In addition to podcasting, I also lead client engagement for Flywheel, a division of Omnicom. It's an e-commerce accelerator company, and I focus on making sure that our clients are heard and that we can connect with them at all sorts of different venues, much like what you're doing here with Accelerate. So thank you for inviting me down to Santiago for this incredible event and offering me the opportunity to speak to your audience of suppliers and agencies. Really great honor. It was a bit of a flight from New York to Dallas to here, and the saddest part about the whole thing was that my podcast co-host Shri was supposed to be here too, and as he was approaching the gate to get on the plane, they closed the door. And wasn't able to make it. So but I'm actually kind of glad he's not here, because honestly, sometimes when we're on the stage together, he hogs all the attention. So I get to say the final word on everything today.
Well, it's a privilege. We are very, very grateful to have you here. And in today's episode, we will try to do some review about what is happening outside from Latin America, outside
Sure.
from Chile, understand a little bit better what's going on in the US, what's going on in Europe, what's going on with retail media, with the e-commerce, with the marketplace, and the first topic that I would like to start with is what is the current state of retail media? What's going on with it? Why is going so fast? And what's your best opinion of it?
So retail media is a rapidly growing segment of the overall media industry, and why it's growing at such an enormous rate is driven by a number of different factors. Let's first look at the media industry in general. The influence of what we refer to as linear television, so traditional television that was on networks, that came through cable television or broadcast, has been waning in terms of its overall reach. So people are, the term that's used in the industry, cutting the cord. Yeah. They're leaving cable television, they're leaving satellite, and they are opting for consuming content through streaming mechanisms. So as that audience declines, to a large extent, advertisers are looking for places to still reach audiences as an effective mechanism for what we would call upper funnel awareness or discovery.
Is it retail media for you a correct channel to build awareness? Like when you compare it with
Sure.
TV, when you compare it with the normal channels that we used to
Yeah.
see or to considerate to build brand awareness? What's going on between retail media? Is it like a competition, or we are going to build and growth together?
I think it's going to build growth, and here's why. Retail media is ultimately presenting brand advertisers with a better mechanism than they've ever had to measure the effectiveness of advertising. Why? Because it's all predicated upon closed loop measurement. So the idea is, what is closed loop? It means as you expose consumers to advertising elements throughout the path to purchase, you have the mechanism to actually measure on the back end whether that yielded a conversion, a purchase. And in doing so, you can, at scale, start to isolate different tactics in retail media to understand the relative contribution that each of those made to the conversion. Now, if I were to say, does retail media help with awareness and discovery? And I was talking 5 years ago when the lion's share of retail media was owned and operated product listings, brand stores on a retailer's website, I would have said no.
Conversion, yeah.
No, because people, when they go to that site, they're already mid-funnel. They're typing in a key search term. They already know what they're looking for. It was not an effective mechanism. Your goal is to start to want to reach these consumers in places where they're not currently looking for a specific
what
product.
Changed? What
Right.
changed? What changed now?
What changed is the ability to connect different publishing capabilities with that closed loop system. Through partnerships in the ad tech stack, you're now able to engage with DSP or demand side platforms to offer programmatic advertising. So when people are out surfing the web and doing things, they are able to be targeted and then exposed to specific advertising. You're now talking about streaming television. All of these services now have the ability to deliver hyper-personalized. So when you send out a television advertisement on cable TV or broadcast, everybody gets the same message. I can now discreetly determine which among the 40 different messages I have for 40 different advertisers can go to each and every consumer.
In a more relevant and contextual.
That's really what it's about, because the idea is that I can now, the way I like to describe this is, I usually look at the carbonated soft drink category, right? If I'm Coca-Cola and I'm trying to market Diet Coke, does it make more sense and is it more efficient for me to target a television show based upon consumers that are female and 18 to 24? Or is it more appropriate for me to target them based upon their longitudinal shopping behavior and whether they even buy carbonated soft drinks to begin with?
How much better it is to do it with the segmentation through the purchase versus the
demographics or anything? It's substantially. We're talking probably 2x more effective.
Yes.
Why? Because I'm not wasting my advertising on people that it's never going to be relevant to.
So in terms of growing the whole industry, advertising industry, and growing the business, it at the same time, like
what it's going to do is
driving the growth that we are.
It is
talking about, or
it is because it does two things. You can either say, well, I have a finite advertising budget, and what is this going to allow me to do? It's going to allow me to invest and get greater reach for the same dollars, or I can, if I want, to grow my business even further. Now that I have much more accurate numbers and I'm much better at investing, it makes it a lot easier for a brand advertiser to go to their leadership and say, we're getting this level of return from these tactics. You want to grow your business even more? This is a mechanism. Like right now, we are in an era where post-pandemic, the impact that all the price that brands have taken because of the increases of commodity prices are starting to have an impact upon shopper behavior and their willingness then to, in an economic condition where we've had massive inflation and people are their budgets are being strapped, that they're starting to look at other alternatives. Corporate brands are definitely one. And so now what many of these brands are facing are actual volume declines, right? And so they have to figure out how to move their volume back up. and it's not going to happen by crossing my fingers and waving for it. I need to be more strategically investing in mechanisms to do that. And that's why tools like Walmart Connect, partnered with the analytics tool of Walmart Phronesis, allows brands to identify the right consumers, serve them up the right tactics based upon what you're trying to do with a brand. Like the mechanisms you use for launching a new brand
Yes.
are going to be much more upper funnel.
Yes.
They're not going to be about
You need to
lower
build that
funnel
part.
discovery.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Lower funnel discovery is like, I'm a very established brand,
Yes.
and maybe my relevance has declined a bit, and so I need to unnaturally elevate my brand as it appears in search results for consumers. That's a perfect example of why I want to use retail media, because there's so much I can do with optimizing for search, organic search. At some point I have to decide, is it worth it for me to invest in retail media to keep my brands in the mind, right front center of consumers, so that when they're on searching, boom, it appears in one of the top 4 spots or somewhere in strategic positions on the results page, and people drive conversion. And it's very important to do that.
And it's getting more and more and more competitive.
Of course it
the
is.
marketplaces are growing, as you show us in your presentation, how you will spark, how you will be the one that it will be part of the first page if you don't have retail media, like how you build growth. And so retail media is growing. How important are partnership for this growth? How is that happening in the US, and what's your point of view of that?
Partnership is on many different levels. Let's first start at the retail media network itself. There must be a partnership between the people who are selling the advertising and the merchants who are making business decisions. If those two entities aren't aligned on the value that retail media brings to driving the business, then the brand is going to get conflicting messages. The merchant is talking about in-store tactics. The retail media network is talking about different in-store tactics and off-site tactics. And the question becomes, where's the money going to get invested, right? And if you're not giving the same message to the brands, you're not going to get the desired outcome. So the first level of collaboration has to be between the merchants and the retail media network team itself.
So the main thing here is that you are a retailer, now you are a media, so what's the point to advertise a product that is not in the store?
Yeah, that's a real problem, because if you don't have an understanding of the inventory condition of your products, then advertising for a product that's out of stock is a waste of effort. It's certainly not going to make the brand very happy, and it's not going to move the needle for the merchant either.
And so not for the retailer either. So,
yeah, and increasingly retail media is having, even for particularly for omni-channel retailers, it's having a dramatic impact upon the inventory conditions at retail, right? Because a lot of the activation you're doing is not about driving necessarily an actual pure e-commerce transaction where the product is ordered, it's shipped to someone's house, or it's delivered to their house. A lot of time they're going to the store to pick up the product that they ordered. Then they're walking into the store and they're making additional purchases. Retail media is about influencing everything that they're doing, wherever they choose to shop, however they choose to shop. And so it's very important that when you build your retail media plan, that the inventory capacity of all the mechanisms by which you fulfill that product are sufficiently available, because the last thing you want to do is get someone to buy something and then or even get to the point where they want to click the buy button and you've been advertising it and suddenly they're out of stock. Like that's an unmet, unfulfilled need, and all you're going to do is disappoint your customers, and that's the last thing anybody experience. The brand doesn't want that, the retailer doesn't want that.
Exactly. So the first partnership that is important, as your point of view, is the merchants with the retail media.
Yep.
The second one, which one?
It's the brand with the retail media network.
Okay.
They need to know that alignment is happening, so that when they talk to the retail media network and they plan, it's not going to be something that the merchant is going to say to them, a week afterwards, oh yeah, don't do that. I want you to do this instead. There has to be a direct alignment. So now it becomes a discussion not of, I'm a slave to two masters, right? I've got the retail media network wanting me to do something and the merchant to do something else. Instead, it's a conversation about, all right, what are the objectives I have for this brand?
Yes.
I'm trying to launch a new product. I'm trying to do a product extension. I am trying to associate my product with a particular event or a time of the year. I have a very established brand. I have a new brand. All of those require different tactics, and they also require different key performance indicators. Yeah. Like when I'm, return on advertising spend, which is probably the most common metric that most retail media networks consider and have been using for years, and there are derivations of it, incrementality ROAS or iROAS, whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is if I'm launching a new product and I'm trying to use ROAS or iROAS as my metric of performance,
you're wasting your time.
You're wasting your time
and your money,
right?
Yes.
You're not about return on advertising spend. You're about awareness.
Yes. How many new customers?
How many impressions?
Yeah.
How many new to brand customers am I bringing in? That's what
How many customers
on.
To the category?
Exactly,
yeah.
And that's what you've got to focus. So it's important that obviously the consultants that are working on the retail media side have a very in-depth knowledge of their ad products and what tactics each of those ad products achieve, and then working with the brands who know their brands and what they're trying to achieve with them. The two of them can collaborate and create a retail media strategy that will achieve those and has the right outcomes that are measured by the right KPIs.
Yes. And you make me think, before we go to the third important partnership for retail media networks, you make me think about, so if the retail media network need to partner with merchants and need to partner with brands,
yep.
What's your thoughts about what's the main role of collaboration of the retail media? Like, is enabling collaboration between merchants and brands? Is like we hear some of those topics today with the brands and with the panel that we discussed with Nestlé and Unilever, and they were saying like a few years ago we were in a transaction kind of transactional mindset.
Everything was campaign by campaign.
Exactly, and our relationship was very transactional, and now we are moving forward to more co-creating.
Retail media has to be a core component of every joint business plan between a manufacturer and a retailer. It can't be an add-on. It can't be the merchant decides on a JBP with the brand and then emails the plan over to retail media.
But do you think that the role is an enabler of the collaboration,
or
is part of the collaboration?
No, I think it enables collaboration because you're now moving a little bit more upstream in the marketing process for the brand, and increasingly brand advertisers, so the brand managers and what have you, are playing an integral role in building a plan for how that activation occurs at an individual retail customer.
Yes, everything is moving so fast. Like structures are changing, the way we work with are changing, the roles, everything is changing. Mm-hmm. So that take me to the third and last point of collaboration. Which one is it for you? Is about the tools that we use? Is about the agencies?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One, in order to have an effective retail media network, you're going to need analytic tools. So read that as first-party data that allows me to define audiences of consumers based upon their purchasing behavior, so that I can then decide which ones are the most important to me, and I can decide which tactics I need to leverage to reach each of those audiences. Like what you're trying to do with somebody who's never bought your brand before is fundamentally different than what you're trying to do with someone who loyally buys your brand every week, right? So that level of collaboration has got to be predicated on data. It can't be based upon a hunch that somebody has. That's not, hunches are not measurable, right? So you need that. Now, agencies are also very important in the process of planning for retail media. Why is that? It's important because to that extent, They understand the tools and the analytics that are involved throughout the ad tech stack.
They're used to.
They are.
Years.
They've been doing this for years. And now what they're able to do is say, okay, I'm going to help you with the administration of your retail media investment at scale, because you need a virtual army of people to just plan out all of these different campaigns. Otherwise, you end up just doing fewer campaigns, and you do it with audiences that are less refined than they could be. If you use an agency that has a tech stack that deals with concepts like how do I structure intraday bidding for my retail media so that I can get the maximum amount of reach at the lowest cost per click, right?
But you took me exactly to the next question, that is the challenges. So in order to make the agencies or whoever a partner, we have many challenges. We are just starting. And what are the main challenges that are coming?
Sure.
Like what do you see in the US, and from there, what are the ones that we have in Latin America?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about first, just finish off my thought on the agencies. Agencies are a critical component of the ecosystem, and the best way for agencies to be able to deliver measurable return to the brands is the closer they are connected to the retail media network in terms of integration, in terms of understanding the capabilities and the objectives, the more they're able to service the brand. So that's very important. So I strongly urge all agencies to be building really great relationships with their retail media networks, more API integrations, more functional capabilities. And also, a lot of them are going to be leaned on by the brands to contribute to the measurement process, right? Because at the end of the day, if this is going to work and deliver against the promise of a closed-loop measurement system, you have to have that performance metric, right? So there are two ways you can deal with this. The retail media network can offer a measurement system. The best advice I give to them is make the calculation as transparent as possible. It can't be a black box saying, your campaign was successful. Well, give me the numbers. No, just trust us. It was successful. I don't think that's anything you would ever deliver to your clients. And I know it's something that the brands would not resonate with. So you have to make it transparent. And in some cases, obviously, you understand that you're not the only retailer in this industry, and they're investing in other retail media platforms. Being able to plug into a third party, which does an independent measurement system so that the mechanism and the measurement approach from platform to platform is consistent, that's how you're going to justify to brand managers to move their investment from other mechanisms into retail media, which is a very good closed-loop performance metric system.
Exactly. And in terms of the challenges that we are getting in, like, what is happening in the US and what happened before in the last 3 years that they already solved? Maybe that are the ones that we are going to solve in the next 4 years.
So the biggest challenges have been, well, I'll just talk on a macro level. There are now somewhere by all metrics, 200 retail media networks in the United States. That is an enormous undertaking for a brand to try and manage. And they don't. Because in all honesty, and if you look at some recent data by eMarketer, it said that in the US, 72% of all retail media spending is going on Amazon. 7% is going to Walmart. So if I do my math, 70, right?
So 13%.
So basically, 13% or so. It's, wait a minute, 72 plus 7 is 79. So 11% is going to the other 198 networks, right?
How difficult is that for a brand?
It's impossible. And so what ends up happening is that the investment against retail media networks for the other 188 is primarily being executed by the shopper marketing team that's assigned to that retailer.
But it's not the first time that this happens in marketing. I mean, like we live it with social media, we live it with search engines, and how it will develop, how we will move forward with this, like
well, the first I'll just say there will be consolidation in retail media networks. Not necessarily a retailer physically buying another retailer. There is some of that happening, but it's going to be more about super regional retailers in the U.S. combining and offering a single point of access. Like I had a retailer that came to me that was predominantly in the New York City area, and they said to me, I can't invest in my retail media network the way that a Kroger does, right? They can amortize the cost across the volume from many, many more stores. And I looked at him and I said, well, then what you should probably do is get on a plane, fly to Cincinnati, and say to that retail media network, hey, we love what you're doing. We noticed you don't have any stores in New York City. Guess what I have? Yeah. Now, does that mean that the margin that the New York-based retailer will achieve on the retail media investment will be shared with the larger retailer? Yes. But now their geography is going to be attached to literally every single national campaign that's executed. You will make up much more in the total dollars that you put in your pocket than you are from the margin rate that you're getting. You just have to think about, so there's going to be some consolidation, right? The other thing is inventory, right? Increasingly, the goal is to have as much inventory as possible so that you can go where your consumers are going, right? So I expect to see many more of the retail networks plugging into as many of the publishing capabilities of streaming services as possible. I also honestly think that publishers are going to want to connect into retailers from a clean room perspective, because now I can measure I can share data and I can measure the performance. So there's a lot that's going on right now that's happening very quick. With respect to Latin America, there's some intricacies of Latin America that are different, right? One, it has much lower e-commerce penetration to begin with. Yes. And that has been, but conversely, of late, you're seeing a faster growth rate happening in Latin America than you do in North America because it's already well developed.
Is it retail media, in-store retail media, as important in the US as in here in Latin America? As you said, the digital advertising market in US is huge. Here in Chile, at least, we are like 50-50 almost.
So like I was in Mexico this summer, and I was walking retail stores, and the level of in-store retail media penetration was substantially lower than when I saw it in the U.S. I'm not saying that every grocery store you walk into the U.S. has digital screens on it, but I would say in the next year or two, it'll be more likely that you walk into a store with digital screens than walking into a store without digital screens. Yeah. There's still a lot of, and digital screens are a challenge, right? Because there's a capital investment there. And retailers generally are not built to bear the cost of that capital. So they're more to some degree relying on third parties. Partnerships, right, that come in to do that. And so you've got to find the partners that are willing to make the capital investment to deploy those capabilities so that then they can partner with the retailer to monetize that and get good returns out of it.
And last but not least, what are the trends that you seeing?
Yeah, so for me, there are a bunch of trends that have my attention. The impact of social commerce is certainly front
Is it going
and center.
to go big?
I think it's huge. I think if you're not invested in commerce on TikTok and platforms like that, you're missing the boat. I mean, the stat that I quoted in the presentation today is already TikTok in a very short period of time is able to convert 40% of its users to conduct commerce on their platform.
That's huge.
I mean, that's just enormous. And you think about the power of these influencers, for all the effort we put into hiring big celebrities to do all this stuff. You know, some little kid on a skateboard from Sheboygan, Wisconsin or wherever, they have more impact in many cases on driving sales of consumer products than George Clooney or anyone else that we know.
Yes, creator economy.
Creator economy is enormous.
Yes.
It is, and it's here to stay. And
it engages us.
The challenge is, also understanding who your audience is and contextually what kind of communication do you want to give to them, knowing what's their device of choice. We used to, when the advent of flat screen TVs, like I walked into a store the other day and I remember buying a 42-inch TV, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was about $3,000. Like a 32-inch, it's like under $100 these days. The most advanced giant TV is less than what I paid for that TV 3 years ago. So, and that's great. And that's great for some of the streaming at home. But conversely, where are most of my consumers going to be exposed to media? It's not on that TV. It's going to be on their mobile device.
Yes, exactly.
Now I've got this tiny little device.
Maybe and in the glasses.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
It's sometimes. But I have to prepare for understanding how my consumer consumes content, and I have to make sure that the way I'm investing in advertising aligns to their content mechanisms.
Yeah, I love the sentence, how consumers consume content, because what is going to happen with the assistants that they are growing so fast? Maybe the whole media industry will change and move to that, because we are not going in a few years more. We are not going to have this screen also.
No, I don't. That's my point. Is like I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years.
No, it's going so fast.
When they plug the chip into my head, and it just goes across my eyeballs.
Exactly.
Right, but the point is if you're a good marketer, you can't be afraid of any of this. You have to lean in and embrace it and test and learn. And that's one of the reasons retail media is so powerful, because it allows you the environment to create small test and learns that don't cost a lot to do, but can give you so much information and inform the direction you want. That's not something you could do before.
Yeah. Peter, we ran out of time, and it was so interesting that the time flies when we talk together like last night.
So Lucas,
today.
you're going to come back and you're going to come on the CPG Guys podcast. I think it's only fair, right?
We will try. We will.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have to bring Pamela along because she wants to talk phronesis.
Yes, I know.
And if we don't bring her, she's going to get FOMO. And I've got everybody's watching. I've got my phronesis T-shirt, and everyone was shocked. Like, where did you get that? And I'm like, I had it made.
Yes, it was great.
Always be on brand, right?
We were very, very lucky to have you. You are not just a great host, Peter. Today you show us that you are a great guest.
Thank you.
All the knowledge that you bring to the table is very, very valuable to us. You are helping us also to build industry. It's very tough because we are just starting, so we are in this mission of bringing all the knowledge to the heads of all the people that we are bringing here. So thank you very much to be with us, and looking forward for the episode with the CPG guys.
Yeah, I'm going to do a couple shameless plugs. Obviously, follow us on LinkedIn. Just search for the CPG Guys and see all the content. But because it's more than just a podcast, we produce a lot of content on LinkedIn, video series and other things, and it's great little supplements to everything we're doing in the podcast. 2, follow us on whatever platform you like, Apple, Spotify. If you have a home device like a Google Home or an Alexa device, you can just ask them to play the CPG Guys, and they're pretty good about doing that. And if you do follow us on the podcast and you like it, I would just encourage you to go and give us a star rating and leave us a review, because it's how we, 1, know whether you like it, and 2, learn, are there other things we want to talk about? And while you're there, they should certainly be following your podcast as well. Yeah, so all of those are very important. But the best thing I'll say is, if you're not into podcasting, give it a try, because it's a mechanism that allows you to passively consume knowledge. And I've shifted my behavior from when I'm on a long drive, I'm not listening to music anymore. I've queued up a whole series of podcasts.
Yeah, me too.
Because I can improve myself, and it doesn't require any extra effort on my part.
I do exactly the same. And your podcast helped me a lot to understand and go faster in this industry. So
thank you
very much. I will finish in Spanish, so I can invite everyone in Spanish to listen to your podcast. Okay. Muchas gracias a todos por escucharnos hoy día. Los dejamos muy invitados a que sigan a los CPG Guys en Spotify, en Apple, los sigan en las redes sociales, conecten con ellos, responden todo el tiempo y nos vemos en una próxima temporada. Adiós.
Con este último episodio concluimos la segunda temporada de Walmart Connect, un podcast de Retail Media donde pudimos conversar a fondo sobre las tendencias más importantes del retail y cómo la innovación y la tecnología están transformando la industria de los medios. Síguenos en nuestras redes sociales y en walmartconnect.cl. Gracias por acompañarnos.